So it's time to buy a car. How do you do it? What to look for, where do you go? That's what I'm gonna explain in this video. Let's talk about it. So all of these options, it's hard to choose, right? So let's talk a little bit about picking your first car or your second car, whatever it is, where to find it, how to find it, where to look. Because with all these options, it can get very overwhelming. How you guys doing? My name is Darren and welcome to episode number 2 of my build series. And on this episode, we're going to talk about purchasing a vehicle. We're talking about purchasing a vehicle before going to the dealership. So that's when it starts. And so my goal is to increase our automotive literacy, and a car is the second most expensive thing most people pay for or buy in their lifetime, and it actually has like some of the least literacy in terms of what we know about purchasing vehicles and what we should and should not buy. So my goal is just to share what I've learned through my own experiences and through my own research, and hopefully that'll help some of you guys make an even more informed decision the next time you go purchase a vehicle. So thank you guys for tuning in. All right. And that's who, what, where, when, and why. I know I count weird, but ignore that. So number 1 is going to be who. And I'm going to keep this as simple as possible. Who is you? So what that means is, what can you afford? So that is step number 1 when you're talking about going to purchase a new vehicle. Now, like I said, vehicles can get extremely expensive, and they range in terms of quality depending on your price, right? Or unless you get a super rare vehicle that just costs a whole bunch of money, then of course that's an outlier. But in general, you're gonna have a wide range of vehicles and a wide range of different prices. So how do you narrow that down? It's gonna be based off of what you can afford. So this is extremely subjective, but you need to do what's best for you and think about the long term when you're purchasing a vehicle. Don't think about monthly payments. Think about what that vehicle is going to cost you over the term of your loan, or whether you're going to put down a whole chunk of money. Think about what that money could be doing in the market in terms of if you can invest it, because cars are depreciating assets, and you don't want to spend 50% of your salary on a depreciating asset, specifically if you're not a car YouTuber or you're not making money off of that vehicle. If that's your means of income, then yeah, you're gonna want to spend more money on that car. But if you need an A to B vehicle, you want to be very smart about how much you're gonna spend in totality on that vehicle. So when you're looking at the price of a vehicle, also factor in the tag, tax, and title. That's going to be specific to your state, and it's going to be specific to the price of your vehicle, but that can be an extra couple $1,000s on top of what you're paying for that vehicle. So always factor that in before going to purchase a vehicle. Okay. So beyond that, we're going to talk about what vehicle should you buy, right? So when we're talking about what, you want to know exactly what you're going to use that vehicle for. So take some time, sit down, and write down everything you currently use the vehicle for or are planning to use your vehicle for. So what that's going to help you do is then choose what type of vehicle you should be looking at. And when I say type, I'm talking about coupe, sedan, convertible, hatchback, pickup, so on and so forth. So once you narrow it down to that type, you're going to want to look at brands. What brand is the best? And when you're comparing brands, you want to compare vehicles within the same class. So if you're looking at a Toyota Corolla, you also want to look at a Honda Civic. You want to look at a Nissan Sentra. Those are all, mid-sized sedans. You want to compare across the class. And then you want to look at which vehicles got the best ratings for what you're going to use it for, right? So Toyota Corolla's got one of the highest reliability ratings. If you're looking for a car that's just going to last and get you A to B for years without much of a problem, you're gonna wanna look at something that's got a higher reliability rating, right? So you want something that's gonna be able to tow, you gotta look at torque numbers. You want something that's gonna be faster, some more performance, you're gonna look at horsepower numbers, right? But you wanna know exactly what you're looking for before you start jumping into the market. So once you've narrowed that down, now you're gonna be looking at specific vehicles at specific dealerships or private sale vehicles. So now you wanna make the decision, am I gonna go with a dealership or am I gonna go with a private sale vehicle? And that's gonna be totally up to you, but I'm gonna tell you right now that a couple of the differences between the two. I've purchased from both, and I will always say the dealership is gonna provide you with more often a better vehicle, because there's more strict requirements that the car has to meet before the dealer can sell that vehicle, because their reputation is behind it. Now, when you go to a private sale vehicle, that car is gonna have, so it could have, I'm not gonna say all the time, but it could have some hidden damages. There's also all types of illegal things that go on in private sale, where people will do what's called title washing. They'll take a salvage car, move it to a different state, and then they'll clean the title. They'll register it under a clean title, basically, and you're driving around with a salvage car on a clean title. So those are things you're gonna have to look out for on the private sale side. But also on the private sale, you're gonna get a lot better prices for the vehicle, because people are ready to get rid of those cars. And especially if you got cash is king. And you're gonna be able to get really good deals if you've got cash on hand in a private sale. And a dealership, you also have a lot more fees. You know, that's gonna be factored into that vehicle. Also, take into account where you're gonna go find the vehicle. I always recommend 50 to 75 miles. That's what I do, because you wanna go put hands on the vehicle. You wanna see it, drive it, smell it. Some very experienced car buyers or purchasers who purchase vehicles a lot, they can pick up things in videos or pictures, but typically if you're not very experienced at looking at vehicles, you're gonna want to go put hands and feet on the car. You know what I'm saying? Because you want to smell it. You want to see if that's something you can live with. If it was a previous smoker or a cat or something that you're not gonna be able to live with, you're not gonna know that unless you go see the vehicle. So always find a dealership. I would recommend close to where you're at, or somewhere you can get to and go see the vehicle. Even if you maybe find an amazing deal on a Toyota Corolla all the way in North Carolina, I guess you might want to go out there and look at it. But a car like that you can find anywhere. Now, if you're looking at a Mark IV Supra, you might have to travel across the country to find the best one. In that case, you're just gonna have to factor in all the travel costs and everything that's associated with carrying a vehicle from California back down to wherever you are, so on and so forth. So that is the what car am I going to buy? So from there, you can factor in what car fits or what's going to fit into your affordable price range, right? And again, there's a lot of tools online, and I'm going to pull this one up now. There's articles you can read about kind of what car can I afford and what car is best for me. So just looking at here's an example of an article that'll tell you about different types of loans, 4 years or less, max monthly payments, yada yada yada. Utilize these resources, okay? And it'll help you, and it'll go a long way. So now we're moving on to what I call when. So who, we talked about what, we talked about where, when. So when is, am I ready to purchase a vehicle? Okay. And when I'm ready to purchase a vehicle, there's different times of the year that might be better to purchase a vehicle. So that's some more research you can do. But when you're talking about purchasing a vehicle, typically the end of the year, dealerships are trying to make their quotas. So they're willing to make a little bit, they're willing to negotiate a little bit more on a vehicle that they're trying to get off the lot. Because if you don't know, these dealerships actually get bigger bonuses if they're the top selling dealership for Chevrolet in that city. They'll get a larger stipend. Whatever. I don't work for these guys. I don't know. I've just heard that. Could be true, could not. This is just what I've heard. So end of the year might be better. Anyway, other things you want to look at is when you're looking at the vehicle is actually like the depreciation curve on the vehicle. So here's a good example of a Toyota versus a BMW when it comes to depreciation. And when you're going to purchase the vehicle and you're looking at how much money do I want to put down, I always recommend, and what I do is try to beat the depreciation on the vehicle, right? So if you put down, let's say 15%, you can afford to do that. 20% is actually a rule of thumb. If you can afford to do that, what's going to happen is you're going to beat the depreciation on the vehicle in terms of your loan if you're taking out a loan, right? So if the depreciation of the vehicle goes like this and you didn't put any money down, your loan payment's gonna go down a lot less gradually, as in that vehicle is going to be worth less than how much you owe on your loan. That's called being underwater. But if you put down 20%, you're already starting at an advantage in terms of when that car starts to depreciate in value, your loan may keep up with the value of the vehicle, right? So that means your loan and the value of the vehicle are going to be at the same number, let's say $10,000. So if you go to sell the car, you're breaking even on your loan. You don't have to pull extra money out of your pocket to cover your loan, etc. And that's if you're going to take a loan out on a vehicle. And speaking about loans, before you go to the dealership, know how you're going to finance that car, right? So what that means is some people may be able to purchase a vehicle cash. And if you're going to do that, does it make sense? You may be able to make, again, I believe in, investing in the stock market and making proper investments. You may be more advantageous to not put down 100% on a car. You know what I'm saying? If you can make more money in the market or other investments, right? But that's all solely up to your finances, right? But know how you're going to finance the car before you get to the dealership. You need to know what your interest rate is. You need to know what your credit score is. You need to know how much money you're going to be able to borrow, right? You need to get all those in order before you get to the dealership, because that way you have a lot more clarity on your decision. And the salesmen aren't, the finance department, they won't be able to trick you or, push you around if you've got your stuff together. And you want to know exactly what you can afford, what rates you're going to get, and you want to have all that written down and ready to go when you get there. Okay, so know your credit score, know your lender, know your rate, know your trade-in value. If you got a vehicle already and you're thinking about trading it in, you need to know how much you're going to be able to get for that car at the dealership. So before going to the dealership, I want you guys to also think very carefully about trading in your vehicle versus a private sale. A private sale, you're going to earn more money for your vehicle, but it's going to take considerably more effort to sell that vehicle versus trading it in. The dealership makes it completely seamless because they want to make money on that car, of course, and they've got everything in place for you, right? You just give them the vehicle and you get your money, but you're going to get more money for your vehicle on a private sale. So just remember that and know those two numbers before going into the deal. So there's different ways to find that. You can look at Kelley Blue Book and other websites. It'll tell you how much your trade-in value is or expected trade-in value is on your car, and just factor that into your finances and know it before you go to the dealership. Also, I recommend negotiating on your car without telling them you have a trade-in until the very end, and then factor that into your financing. That's just something that you can look into, see if that works for you, but don't forget that. So let me show you guys the depreciation curve on a Toyota versus a BMW. This is actually very interesting. So if you look here, we've got Toyota depreciation, right? And if you look at this curve here, this is your depreciation by year. So percentage of value. So the car is still worth 100% at 2020. But now at, let's say 2008, the car is only worth 30%, right, of its original value. So it's lost 70% of value in, let's say, 12 years. So the steeper this curve, the faster the car is losing value, the less it's worth. So if we look here, in 2 years, this car would have lost 25% of its value. And that's a Toyota Corolla, right? Now let's go look at the BMW and you'll see what I'm talking about. When you're making a decision, you want to know this, right? When you're choosing between cars, you want to know which car is going to be depreciate less. That's something that's going to save you a lot of money that people don't think about. If you're choosing between a Toyota and a Sentra, a Nissan Sentra, which one depreciates more? So that may factor in heavily into your decision because they basically got the same trim levels, they have the same, amenities, features, yada yada. Now, it'll help you make the decision to say, okay, I'm gonna go with the Toyota because in 2 years, or let's say 5 years, when I'm done with my loan and I'm ready to sell my car, the Toyota is gonna be worth $2,000 more than the Sentra. So now you've earned $2,000 more than you would have had. So that's something to factor into your purchase before going to the dealership. So let's look at the BMW. So looking at a car like a BMW and a Mercedes, they have much higher, steeper depreciation curves than, Toyotas and those type of vehicles. So if you see here, looking at the BMW, in 2 years, it's lost 33% of its value versus the Toyota has only lost in 2 years 25% of its value. So that could be a few $1,000s. So now if you keep going down, let's go all the way down to, let's say 6 years later, the BMW has lost 63% of its value. And if you go look at the Toyota, in 6 years, it's only lost 50%. So right there, again, it's a few $1,000s. So you want to factor that in and utilize these resources like Car Edge and other depreciation websites to factor this information into your purchase. So when you're looking at your credit score, your interest rate, the national average I think is 5.67%. So a lot of people in a lot of our communities don't know what a good or a bad interest rate is. So I'm telling you guys now to look up that value or look up that number before jumping into a loan and see what a good interest rate is or a national average is. And it's gonna heavily depend on your credit score. So I'm being careful about how I say that, because if you have a great credit score, 750 and above, you're gonna get a 2, 3, 4% interest rate. But if you got a really, considered a bad credit score, you're gonna be looking at, much higher than that. You're gonna be looking at, like, you have a 630 or something, you may be looking at a 7, 8% interest rate. If you got worse than that, you may be looking in the teens. And if you just get roped up into a bad deal, you could be looking in the teens, upper teens. And that is a lot of money, So, it may make sense for you to it may make sense for you to get a car cash where you have paid it outright. You're only going to be able to get a cheaper car, but in the long run, you're going to be able to save a lot more money. Okay, because just be very careful about your interest rate. And just so you guys know, national interest rate is 5.67%. So if you got something a lot higher than that, maybe look at refinancing down the road. And also know that information before going into the deal. And it's going to be solely dependent on your credit score, but just know what ballpark you should be expecting on a loan. And typically credit unions actually offer cheaper loans, and that's where I get my loans from, is from credit unions. I never go through dealer financing for multiple reasons, and you guys can look that up and see if that works for you, but I do not. And on the Mustang, I actually paid cash for the Mustang because I was able to afford it, and I saw the value in saving the monthly amount of money and investing that in other investments, including this YouTube channel. So that's how I was able to get the Mustang. I don't have a note on that car, but my previous car, I did have a note, and it was a nightmare trying to get out of paying off my loan and getting the title back and all that other stuff. So anyway, long story short. Okay, So now last section, I want to talk about why. So who, what, where, when, and why. And I know I count weird. I do this one like this, then I do this, just ignore it. Who, what, where, when, and why. So your why, never forget why you're buying your car. Always think about the long term and what this car is how it's gonna fit into your life, and make it the best decision that you can make. Come in with the most information that you can come in with, right? So prior going to the dealership, I recommend choosing 3 cars on that specific lot that you've already done your prior research on. So when you go to the lot, you're a lot calmer. You're not as easily distracted and caught off guard, because you have done your research and you know exactly what to look for on these 3 cars, and that'll help you in your negotiation. So I highly recommend that. And then I can go into like Car Gurus is what I use typically to find cars. And when I'm looking on Car Gurus, I first of all look in my area, I search for my model, I search for the years I want to stay in that fit my price range. And then also you want to look for 1 owner, clean title, non-rental cars. That's just my recommendation. Also, you want to do the average on how many years or how many miles per year that car was driven. So the national average is 15,000 miles driven on a car. And if you see a car that is 2 years old and has 70,000 miles on it, it was driven 35,000 miles a year, that may be a car you want to stay away from, because it's a lot more wear and tear than a car that was driven 15,000 miles a year. So always look at that when you're looking at a Car Gurus. Pay attention to the number of owners. So if you've got a car that is, let's say, only has 50,000 miles on it but has 6 owners, that could be a sign that that car is being passed around for a reason, because maybe it has a major issue that no one's been able to really figure it out, or it's just been through different dealerships, different brokers, auctions, whatever. So just factor that stuff in and pay attention to that. Also, cars that have been on the site for a very long time, that also could be a bad sign. Cars that constantly get their price reduced because they're sitting on the lot, maybe a bad sign. I don't know. Pay attention to stuff like that. Also look for no accident cars. You don't want to buy a car with accidents on the record, typically, because your resale value is going to be significantly less. Also, you don't know how that car was repaired, what level of quality the car was repaired. So some people are willing to take the hit. I was when I bought my Mustang, because you get a better deal, and if it's an accident or something that is negligible or you feel comfortable with, it actually can save you a whole lot of money. But at the same time, if you're buying something new, something newer, this is not a project car for you. I'm not so much talking to my project car people, because my project car people, automotive enthusiasts, they will deal with that all day. They get great deals, and those cars still get passed around at pretty good values, right? But if you're going to buy a brand new Toyota, or 2018 Toyota, or 2018 Acura, you don't want to buy a car with an accident on it 2 years old, because there's so many more of them out there. Why waste your time? Because it's going to hurt your resale value, and again, you don't know how that car was repaired. So be very cognizant of how many accidents, or not having any accidents on the car before you buy it. So I want to talk about also buying used versus buying new. So this is also subjective. It's going to depend on your lifestyle, what you're using this vehicle for. So I want to be clear about that too. I'm speaking to a wide range of people, and some people actually get paid for the cars they drive, believe it or not. Because some people are influencers, they're YouTubers, they'll post a video, they'll get 250,000 views, and that car will start paying for itself through YouTube for some people. So they can they have to buy brand new cars sometimes. And certain influencers, they actually make more money when they go buy a brand new Tesla, because their followers are like, oh my God, I want a Tesla. And they post all their vlogs, and all of a sudden their videos get millions of views, and that Tesla's paid off. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about your situation. But buying new versus used, Buying a new vehicle, you're gonna lose 15 to 20% the second you drive that car off the lot, because it's now used. It's no longer a new vehicle. So if you can afford to take the few $1,000 hit, cool. Some people can't do that. I highly recommend, if you're gonna get a newer car, go 2 years old, go a year old, because someone's already taken that depreciation hit, and that's gonna save you thousands of dollars before, like that. So the fastest way, if you ever want to throw away $3,000, buy a brand new car and drive it right off the lot. Again, there's nothing wrong with doing that if you can afford it. This is for people who don't know that happens. Buy a year model older. Get the 2019 versus the 2020, or get the 2018 versus the 2020. Because believe it or not, there's actually not that many differences in the packages, in the amenities, in the features between a 2019 and a 2020, 2018 and a 2020. So you can save thousands of dollars for the exact same car, and it's all going to be up to your discretion. Do your price analysis, but just know that is the thing, and that'll actually save you a whole bunch of money. What else can I say? So I was going to talk about this in the next section of my video, which is at the dealership, but I'm going to tell you guys right now, you can also do something called a pre-purchase inspection, and this can be remote. And what this is if you find a car at a dealership that you like a lot and you want to have someone look at it, a certified mechanic, a senior technician, you can Google pre-purchase inspection in my area, or automotive pre-purchase inspection in my area, and a licensed mechanic will go out and inspect the vehicle top to bottom and do 100 to 600 point inspection on the vehicle, and they will send you over all of the results and give you kind of a rating on the vehicle, of course for a fee, and it'll allow you to make a much more informed decision, or save you time and money from either going to the dealership and wasting time, or buying a bad vehicle and paying for it in the long run. Pre-purchase inspections can be a little bit expensive, $150, $100, but if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it'll pay for itself if you get a really good car. So, or if you avoid a bad car. So always look into the possibility of a pre-purchase inspection if the vehicle is not local, or if you just don't trust yourself to break down the vehicle before you get there, or when you get there, break down the vehicle in terms of, what's wrong with it. So remember that. I didn't know about that until, the last year, and I'm sure a lot of people don't know about a pre-purchase inspection, and you can actually pay to do that. So look into that. So when you're looking online, look for cars that have the car guru, not the car gurus, but the Autofacts attached to it. The Carfax attached to it, or they have what's called an auto check report, and these are both vehicle reports that will show you where the car was first purchased. It'll show you when it was serviced, if it was recorded, and at what mileage it was serviced. It'll show you accident records, it'll show you liens. It'll basically give you a good amount of the background on the vehicle, or at least what's captured in the national system, right? And you want to pay attention to things like flood damage, hail damage. Make sure it's a clean title, of course. Look at the service record. Some vehicles are constantly serviced at the same dealership over and over again. That's a really good sign that the car was kept up. And you can also see at what mileage intervals the car was serviced at, and that's a really good sign if they're servicing their car every 10,000 miles or whatever it is, because that means the car was consistently kept up with, and you should be getting a pretty good vehicle that you're not going to have to worry about issues with further down the road, especially not wear and tear related issues. So yeah, always look out for your Carfax or an auto check when you're searching for your vehicles online. And also when you get to the dealership, request one. You can also pay for one if they don't have one at the dealership, or if they don't want to get you one at the dealership, or if the online search engine doesn't have it, you can pay for a Carfax report for $40 online. And again, it sounds like it's an upfront investment, but it'll save you on the back end when you get a better vehicle, and you avoid bad vehicles. So final, like I was saying, don't forget your why. Don't get confused. Don't get discombobulated. If you go into it knowing your numbers, knowing what you can afford, having the money already set aside, you know you're making a good decision. You can feel comfortable about your purchase, and you can feel very comfortable about what that car is going to provide for you in the future. It's going to get you from A to B. It's going to make you look good. It's going to make you more money. It's going to make you get to your family, get to different road trips. Whatever you're using your car for, go into it with a level, clear, and informed decision. And I hope that this video can help point some of you in the right direction and encourage you to do your research on something that you may not have known before the video. So if you guys don't mind liking, subscribing to my YouTube channel, as well as following my page on Instagram and Facebook at 1K Engineering. I look forward to keeping up with you guys and hearing your feedback. Thank you guys for watching. I will catch you on the next episode.